Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my podcast. My name is Lynette. Today, we're going to talk about not judging a book by its cover. It's very interesting to find out where the help comes from, and it's usually the least likely of people that you might expect. I'm going to go right into a story of something that happened to me. When I first started getting mobility problems, I was in San Francisco, and I got out of my car, and I don't know what happened. My ankle twisted or something. I fell down. I was literally on the ground, and one lady, the sidewalk was empty. One lady walked by. She looked right at me, and she kept walking. I honestly couldn't believe it. I've heard about stories like that, but I've seen it in action. And what's interesting about getting ill or going through a trial, it's that all these experiences that you've heard about, you actually experience. And it's been quite an awakening, and it's taught me a lot. It's taught me that it's not always the people that you would expect to either be for you or against you. For example, another time I was at the doctor's office, and I had gotten out of my car. I guess I was having trouble. I can't remember what the situation was. But this girl that was in a rather beat-up old car got out, and she looked, I hate to judge a book by its cover, but she looked rather scary. And don't you know, she's the one that came over and said, "Can I help you?" So I learned without a shadow of a doubt not to judge a book by its cover, because you really never know who's going to be for you, who's going to be against you. I will use another example is, let's take this podcast, for example. The people that I thought would be real supportive and maybe listen to it and come back with either constructive criticism or compliments, most of them did not even listen to it. Actually, the people who did call me to give me comments on it were people that I would not have expected. And it was wonderful. So not only don't judge a book by its cover, but it goes back to don't depend on anyone else to make you happy. Because when you really expect the people around you to act a certain way or be there supportive or whatever, it's quite often not them. It doesn't mean they don't love you. It doesn't mean they don't want to support you. It just means that it didn't register with them how important it might be to you. But there are others out there, if you'll just give them a chance. It's not always the people that we think it's going to be who are there for us. I know I've already shared this with you, maybe even a couple of times, but a perfect example is that night I was going out for my birthday with quite a few friends, and the ones that I was closest to, the ones that I was really excited about being there, are the ones that said they couldn't make it. And I was very disappointed. In fact, it kind of brought me down. I thought, gee, don't they care? Don't they want to be there to celebrate my big night? But as I was standing there in my bathroom, putting on my makeup, I felt this spiritual voice that I've mentioned before, and it said, enjoy who is there. And I never thought of looking at it that way. Instead of dwelling or being disappointed on who isn't there or what didn't happen, enjoy what did happen. And we'll go back to the spiritual realm. If you live in the spiritual realm, you know that whatever comes to you is meant to be. And sometimes the things that don't come your way are to protect you. All of this can also be equated to relationships. I know in our heads we have this certain person that we want to be our significant other. And if they aren't, oh my gosh, the world might fall apart. However, if you give someone a chance, the least likely, not only could you be pleasantly surprised, but you end up in a relationship without drama. that you know this person cares about you. You don't have to worry about them. Because oftentimes we are attracted to people who stimulate us by keeping us on our toes, keeping us off balance. But tell you the truth, that gets really exhausting. And when you're with people that don't do that to you, don't always try to keep you off balance, you can enjoy the world around you. You can look around. You can live in peace. This is kind of off the subject, but while we're talking about don't expect certain people to give you kudos when you do something well or you've accomplished something that you've worked hard for, but also do not do anything for a pat on the back from anybody else. In other words, when you do something, do it for yourself, do it for God. In fact, you don't even need to tell anybody else what you're doing. So when you apply yourself and you have a goal, it's really between you and God. If you keep it to yourself and do the best you can, that's where real confidence comes in. You're confident that you aren't doing it for someone else. You're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for God. I'm not saying you can never talk about it or discuss it with a friend, but there's a difference between having it in your head thinking, gee, if I accomplish this, so-and-so is going to be so proud of me or envious. So those are the wrong reasons. And that takes your attention and your focus out of what you're doing and puts it focusing on what they're doing and what somebody else's approval might be. So we need to shake that. It's very easy to fall into it. I know it is. But you have to keep reeling yourself back in. Keep walking forward. Keep doing what you're doing for yourself and do the best job you can do, regardless if anybody knows about it, regardless if anybody's watching. To recap, remember that do not judge a book by its cover. Do not judge what someone looks like. Because the interesting thing about going through this illness, as I mentioned earlier, it's all these things that I have heard about that take place, but now I've actually experienced them. And the whole purpose for me making this podcast is hoping to save someone else in a similar situation, whether it be illness or whatever you might be going through, or just life in general. You don't know who's going to be there for you. Don't have images in your head. Don't depend on somebody else. Open up yourself to anybody. And of course, this is just common sense. In doing so with all of this, you always want to be safe. For the most part, give everybody a chance, but don't make your goals to impress anybody else. And don't be discouraged when the people around you, the ones you love the most, don't seem to be supportive. Because actually, when you think about it, how many people are around us that probably have their own goals, and we don't recognize it as such, and we don't compliment them or give them a pat on the back for their accomplishments. So it doesn't mean you don't love them, and it doesn't mean they don't love you. So if you limit yourself to just the people that you want to impress, or you want to be supportive, or you want to be there for you, you are truly limiting yourself. There's a whole world of wonderful people. Now, in closing, I wanted to go over something else. I decided a long time ago that when I did this podcast, unless I had something significant to talk to you about, I wasn't going to just voice things to fill time in this recording. However, if there's something specifically that you would like to talk about, I'm going to leave my Facebook address under the description of this episode. It is the same name that's on this podcast, Lynette Meiglitz. However, on Facebook, I have my maiden name in the middle, and it's Rubino. That's Rubino. I would love to hear from you, and I'd love to go over anything that you have on your mind. Thank you for listening. And again, be open to everyone around you. Remember, do things for yourself. Do things for God. Open yourself to people that are around you. Don't keep it limited to those that are in your circle or that you think you should get feedback, kudos, whatever from, because you just never know. When you give someone a chance, you can be very pleasantly surprised. And again, in doing so, be safe. Okay, thank you for listening. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.